Hello, everybody, and welcome to our legendary Skyrim adventures of Jack Blackmarsh. In today's episode, we are doing something a little bit different. We are doing a Skyrim lore tale since we just did the very first Potema quest. So we are going to be reading um, the Wolf Queen version 1. So this is going to be more so a little short than it will be a actual like full video. It might be a couple minutes long, depends on how long it takes for me to read the book. I'm not the greatest at narration, but I at least know that I have it. So, The Wolf Queen, version 1. And let me see if I can actually do that. Okay, sweetness. We're going to put that in our inventory. Then I'm going to read the book. The Wolf Queen, version 1. The Wolf Queen, book 1 by Jarth? Or Waffen? We'll find out his name, I guess. From the pen of the 1st century 3rd era sage, Montekai. 3rd era, 63. In the autumn tide of the year, Prince Pelagius, son of Prince Uriel, who is son of the Empress Kintira? I think we'll go with Kintira. I think that's a K. Or it's Brintira. Who is niece of the great Emperor Tiber Septim, came to the High Rock city-state of Camlorn to pay court to the daughter of King Volstead. Her name was Quintella, the most beauteous princess in Tamriel, skilled at all the maidly skills and an accomplished sorceress. Oh, dabbled in a bit of magic. 11 years as a widower with a young son named Anticus. Pelagius arrived at court to find that the city-state was being terrorized by a great demon werewolf. Instead of wooing Pelagius, and Quintella together went out to save the kingdom. With his sword and her sorcery, the beast was slain, and by the powers of mysticism, Quintella chained the beast's soul to a soul gem. Pelagius had the gem made into a ring and married her. But it was said that the soul of the wolf stayed with the couple until birth of their first child, 3rd era 80. The ambassador from Solitude has arrived, Your Majesty, whispered the steward Balvis. Right in the middle of dinner, muttered the Emperor weakly. Tell him to wait. No, father, it's important that you see him, said Pelagius, rising. You can't make him wait and then give him bad news. It's undiplomatic. Don't go then. You're much better at diplomacy than I am. We should have all the family here. Emperor Uriel II added, suddenly aware how few people were present at his dinner table. Where's your mother? Sleeping with the archpriest of Kinnereth, Pelagius would have said, but he was, as his father said, diplomatic. Instead, he said, at prayer. Ooh, scandalous. And your brother and sister? Emil is in first hold, meeting with the Archmagister of the Mages Guild, and Galano, though we won't be telling this to the ambassador, of course, is preparing for her wedding to the Duke of Narcissus. Since the ambassador expects her to be marrying his patron, the King of Solitude, instead, we'll tell him that she's at the spa having a cluster of pestilent boils removed. Tell him that, and he won't press too hard for the marriage politically expedient. Though it may be, Pelagius smiled, you know how queasy Nords are about warty women. But dash it, I feel like I should have some family around, so I don't look like this old fool despised by his nearest and dearest, growled the Empire, correctly suspecting this to be the case. What about your wife? Where's she and the grandchildren? Quintella's in the nursery with Severus and Magnus. Anticus is probably whoring around the city. I don't know where Potema is. Probably at her studies. I thought you didn't like children around. I do during meetings with ambassadors in damp staterooms, sighed the Emperor. They lend an air of, I don't know, innocence and civility. Ah, show the blasted ambassador in, he said to Balvis. Potema was bored. It was the rainy season in the imperial province, Wintertide, and the streets and the gardens of the city were all flooded. She could not remember a time when it was not raining, had it only been days, or had it been weeks or months since the sun shone. There was no judging of the time any more in the constant flickering torchlight of the palace, and as Potema walked through the marble and stone hallways, listening to the pelting of the rain, she could think nothing but that she was bored. Asked if her tutor would be looking for her now. Ordinarily, she did not mind studying. Rote memorization came easily to her. She quizzed herself as she walked down through the empty ballroom. When did Oriusum fall? First era 980. Who wrote the Telarium Tractates? Kosi. When was Timer Septim born? Second era 288. Who is the current king of Daggerfall? Morton, son of Gorthir. Who is the current Sylvanar? Varberith, son of Varbali, who is the warlord of Limuth. Trick question. It's a lady. Low. What will I get if I'm a good girl and I don't get into any trouble and my tutor says I am an excellent student? Mother and father will renege on their promise to buy me a Daedric katana of my own, saying they never remember that promise and it's far too expensive and dangerous for a girl my age. There were voices coming from the Emperor's stateroom. Her father, her grandfather, a man with a strange accent, a Nord. Potema moved a stone she had loosened behind the tapestry and listened in. Let us be frank, your Imperial Majesty, came the Nord's voice. My sire, the King of Solitude, doesn't care if Princess Galana looks like an orc. He wants an alliance with the Imperial family, and you agreed to give him Galana, or give back the millions of gold he gave to you to quell the Khajiit rebellion in Torval. This was the arrangement you swore to honor. I remember no such agreement, came her father's voice. Can you, my liege? There was a mumbling noise that Potema took to be her grandfather, and the ancient emperor. Perhaps we should take a walk in the Hall of Records. My mind may be going. The Nord's voice sounded sarcastic. I distinctly remember your seal being placed on the agreement before it was locked away, of course. I may verily be mistaken. We will send a page to the hall to get the document you refer to, replied her father's voice with the cruel, soothing quality he used whenever he was about to break a promise. Protema knew it well. She placed the loose stone and hurried out of the ballroom. She knew well how slowly the pages walked, used to running her agent errands for a doddering emperor. She could make it to the Hall of Records in no time at all. The massive ebony door was locked, of course, but she knew what to do. A year ago, she caught her mother's Bosmer maid pilfering some jewelry, and in exchange for her silence, forced the young woman to teach her how to pick locks. Potema pulled two of the pins off her red diamond brooch and slid the first into the first lock, holding her hand steady and memorizing the pattern of the tumblers and grooves within the mechanism. Each lock had a geography and of its own. The lock to the kitchen larder, 6 free tumblers, a frozen seventh, and a counterbolt. She had broken into that just for fun. But if she had been a poisoner, the whole imperial household would be dead by now, she thought, smiling. The lock to her brother Atticus's room, secret stash of the Khajiit pornography, just 2 free tumblers and a pathetic poisoned quill trap, easily dismantled with a pressure on the counterweight that had been a profitable score. It was strange that Atticus, who seemed to have no shame, proved so easy to blackmail. She was, after all, only 12, and the differences between the perversions of the cat people and the perversions of Cyrodiils seemed pretty academic. Still, Atticus had to give her the diamond brooch, which she treasured. She had never been caught, not even she broke into the Archmage's study and stole his oldest spellbook. Not when she broke into the guest room of the King of the Ghislaine and stole his crown the morning before Magnus's official welcoming ceremony. It had become too easy to torment her family with these little crimes, but there was a document to the Emperor. There was a document the Emperor wanted for a very important meeting. She would get it first, but this was the hardest lock she'd ever opened. Over and over, she massaged the tumblers, gently pushing aside the forked clamp that snatched at her pins. Drumming the counterweights, it nearly took her a half a minute to break through the door to the Hall of Records where the Elder Scrolls were housed. The documents were well organized by year, province, and kingdom, and it took Potema only a short while to find the promise of marriage between Uriel Septim II, by the grace of the gods, Emperor of the Holy Cyrodiilic Empire of Tamriel, and his daughter, the Princess Galana, and His Majesty King Martico of Solitude. She grabbed her prize and was out of the hall with the door well locked before the page was even in sight. Back in the ballroom, she loosened the stone and listened eagerly to the conversation within. For a few minutes, the 3 men, the Nord, the Emperor, and her father, just spoke of the weather and some boring diplomatic details. Then there was the sound of footsteps and a young voice, the page. Your Imperial Majesty, I have searched the Hall of Records and I cannot find the document you asked for. There, you see, came Potema's father's voice. I told you it didn't exist, but I saw the Nord's voice was furious. I was there with when my liege and the Emperor signed it. I was there. I hope you aren't doubting the word of my father, the sovereign emperor of all Tamriel. Not when there's no proof that you must have been mistaken. Pelagia's voice was low. Dangerous. Of course not, said the Nord, conceding quickly, but what will I tell my king? He is to have no connection with the imperial family and no gold returned to him as the agreement, as he and I believed the agreement to be. We don't want any bad feelings between the kingdom of Solitude and us. Came to the emperor's voice. Yeah, came to the emperor's voice, rather feeble, but clear enough. What if we offered King Martico our granddaughter instead? Potema felt the chill of the room descend on her. The Princess Potema, is she not too young? Asked the Nord. She is 13 years old, said her father. That's old enough to wed. She would ideal mate for your king, said the emperor. She is adamantly, from what I see of her, very shy and innocent, but certain she would quickly grasp the ways of court. She is, after all, a septim. I think she would be an excellent queen of solitude. Not too exciting, but noble. The granddaughter of the emperor is not as close as his daughter, said the Nord, rather miserably, but I don't see how we can refuse the offer. I will send word to my king. You have or leave, said the emperor, and Potema heard the sound of the Nord leaving the stateroom. Tears streamed down Potema's eyes. She knew who the King of Solitude was from her studies. Martico, 62 years old and quite fat. And she knew how far Solitude was and how cold in the northernmost clime. Her father and grandfather were abandoning her to barbaric Nords. The voices in the room continued talking. Well acted, my boy. Now make sure you burn that document, said her father. My prince, asked the page careless voice. The agreement between the Emperor and the King of Solitude, you fool. We don't want it to its existence known. My prince, I told you I couldn't find the document in the Hall of Records. It seemed to be missing. By Lorcan, roared her father. Why is everything in this place always misplaced? Go back to the hall and keep searching until you find it. Potema looked at the documents. Millions of gold pieces promised to the kingdom of Solitude in the event of Princess Galana not marrying the king. She could bring it into her father, and perhaps as a reward, she would not marry her to Manticora. Or perhaps she could blackmail her father and the emperor with it and make a tidy sum of money. Or she could produce it when she became the Queen of Solitude to fill her coffers and buy anything she wanted. More than a Daedric katana, that was for certain. So many possibilities, Potema thought, and she found herself not so bored anymore. Well, everybody, that concludes version 1 of the Wolf Queen. It sounds like uh, there's some messed up dealings happening with Solitude and the Imperials. But thank you guys for that. This is the first time we've done Skyrim lore story time in a while, and I shall check you guys out in the next one. Thank you guys so much.